It's a great pleasure to be here today for the release of Don Quixote in Kashmiri. I must apologize for the delay. We are still expecting Mr. Surinder Pandit, who is the grandson of the translator and the artifacts of this work also. He's coming. He asked us to begin. But let me first say thank you very much, Dr. Karan Singh, for joining us here today. It's a great honor for us. I'd like to remind that Dr. Karan Singh inaugurated this center in 2009 with the 10 Prince of Spain, Felipe, and the Princess Letizia, who now are kings of Spain. And it was really a great occasion. Every time Dr. Karan Singh comes here, you know, it's a big joy for all of us. I would like also to welcome the press and cultural attaché of the Spanish Embassy, Mr. Guillermo Martín Senderos. Thank you very much for being here today on this occasion. And very especially, you know, Mr. Professor Dr. Dragomir Dimitrov, who has come all the way from Germany to be present here on this occasion. And last but not least, Professor Mahesh Deokar, who is here, the publisher from Pune University.
Dr. Surendra Pandita ji is also specially here for this program. As Dr. Pujol said, I mean, this whole endeavor of collecting different translations of Don Quixote was a crazy idea. I think that craziness still continues, and I think these two publications are also a result of that kind of craziness, because when Dr. Dragomir Dimitrov, with whom I was working since 2012, basically on different texts, Indological texts, grammatical texts, Sanskrit, Pali. But when he was in Pune as a Fyodor Lenin fellow, he came with this idea of publishing this Sanskrit translation in Pune. By that time, we had established the Pune Indological series at the University of Pune, Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies, which I'm heading for the last several years. And the series was established basically to publish works of visiting professors at the department. And Professor Dimitrov was at that time a visiting professor at my department. And the collaboration started. He had the manuscript by that time. By the way, he had also developed a special font for Sanskrit, which has again a history of 200 years. So the fonts which were used 200 years ago by August William Schlegel for printing Sanskrit books in Germany was reproduced on computers by Dragomir in collaboration with the CDAC, the Center for Advanced Computing in Pune. And another, our senior colleague, Professor Shrikant Bahulkar, who was a great Sanskritist and Indologist, he accepted to do an audio book for this printed Sanskrit printed version. So the Sanskrit version was then prepared as a result of this wonderful collaboration between Germany, Pune, and also with different people and institutions. And I'm really happy that today we are here to do the second step of that wonderful collaboration. As Dragomir has already mentioned in his introduction to the Sanskrit text, that Don Quixote's reception in India was exceptional, and there were translations of this text in many Indian languages. Marathi is also one of them. The state is our state language, and you know, it has been appearing again and again in different forms. So I think there is a special relationship between India and Spain, and our Indian languages and Spanish for that matter. And I'm really happy that today we have this great opportunity to bring out the second step. And I'm personally happy and really feel proud to be a part of this. I'm myself not an expert in Spanish, nor in Kashmiri, but I'm heading a department which works in the field of Indology. Being myself a student and a scholar of Pali and Sanskrit, I was really happy to be a part of this project and to be a part of this crazy team of people.
Witnessing this moment of published Kashmiri translation of Don Quixote gives me a surreal feeling. After a long dream of nearly 9 decades, the translation is finally before us. For all this, the singular credit goes to Professor Dimitrov, who single-handedly coordinated every detail of this undertaking with dedication and indefatigable scholarship. I convey my deepest congratulations to him for making this remarkable work see the light of the day. I am equally duty-bound to express my grateful thanks and deep gratitude to Professor Jagger of the University of Marburg, who in the first instance located the abandoned Kashmiri and Sanskrit manuscript of Don Quixote from the unattended corner of the Houghton Library shelves in the University of Harvard in 2011. Professor Jürgen Hanider, who later arranged special classes for the study of the Sanskrit manuscripts at Marburg before its publication in 2018. The Kashmiri translation, commissioned way back in 1935, was inaugurated by Sir Aurel Stein at the behest of his Harvard friend Carl Tilden Keller, when Stein requested my grandfather, Professor Nityanand Shastri, to prepare the translation. At that time, incapacitated by paralysis to hold the pen, my grandfather took the assistance of another Kashmiri scholar, Professor Jagaddhar Zadoo, to write down the manuscript of the translation prepared by my grandfather. Of course, Professor Jagaddhar also collaborating in the translation. Together they completed the translation in less than a year's time. The first request Stein made to my grandfather was October 16, 1935. And when the translation was reached the hands of Aurel Stein, it was again October 16, 1936, exactly 1 year later. The translation happened in less than a year's time before the close of 1936, when the translation was forwarded from Srinagar, and Stein at the time was excavating in Iran. He was stationed in Kermanshah. From there, the translation via a detour to Oxford reached Keller at Boston in US sometime by early 1937. I was aware of the existence of the translation since the time I inherited my grandfather's library collection that included several letters Sir Aurel Stein had written to my grandfather during the years 1935 and 1937, in connection with the Kashmiri and Sanskrit translation of this Spanish classic. And later on, I became familiar with the manuscript in Kashmiri through my aunt, Kamla Shankar, more than 25 years ago, when she gifted me the photographic copy of the original Harvard manuscript that had come down into her possession after the death of my grandfather sometime in December 1942. This copy was prepared to get the translation published in Srinagar. However, the plans never fructified for some unknown reasons, and the manuscript lay forlorn and unattended for nearly 8 decades when Dr. Dragomir obtained its digital copy from the Houghton Library, Harvard University in 2018, and today we have its published facsimile version in our hands. The facsimile edition is the autograph of Professor Jagaddhar Zadoo, who wrote down the manuscript. As I said, my grandfather was incapacitated to write himself. He could not hold the pen. So under the circumstances, the translation physically was written by Professor Jagaddhar Zadoo, and along with my grandfather, both of them prepared this. I have no doubt in my mind that given the cultic and iconic status of this 17th century Spanish classic, its twin translations into Sanskrit and Kashmiri are the single greatest contribution to the Western literature. Kashmir's single largest, greatest and largest contribution to the Western literature. And that is also to state that Kashmiri translation of Don Quixote earns the Kashmiri language itself its highest recognition and honor for it being the most precious translation of any literary work that has been made into Kashmiri language.
We should never forget that this little valley in the Himalayas was one of the most fertile land for Sanskrit. Already in the first centuries of the first millennium, Kashmir played an incredible role in the Buddhist school of Sarvastivada, and that was from where many Chinese monks took their scriptures back to China. And Kashmir was already a key area in transmitting Sanskrit wisdom to Central Asia. But it continued, and we have great savants like Abhinavagupta of Kashmiri Shaivism, Kshemendra already quoted, Mammata of rhetorics, and so many scholars, Sanskrit scholars in Kashmir, that I will just ask all of you a big clap for Kashmir and his contribution to Sanskrit.
East is west, and west is east. Let it be complete.
Publishing the partial Sanskrit translation in 2019, and after releasing it officially in the summer of 2022, the work on this project was only half done. The mission was not completed since the Kashmiri translation of 5 chapters of Don Quixote, which Pandit Nityanand Shastri and Pandit Jagaddhar Zadoo had rendered between November 1935 and September 1936, remained unpublished. The nice handwritten notebook, bound in 3/4 green Morocco, as is mentioned in the catalogue entry of the precious item kept at present in the Houghton Library in Boston, contains Zadoo's autograph of the Kashmiri text. Besides a lengthy introduction covering the history of the entire Quixote project carried out in Kashmir in the 1930s, the first book contains the Sanskrit translation, which was newly typed and critically edited there. The second book, on the other hand, is furnished with a comparatively short yet quite special introduction, for it was contributed by Surendranath Pandita, the grandson of Nityanand Shastri, one of the 2 Pandits who rendered the text into Kashmiri. As for the translation itself, you immediately notice that the text has not been typed anew, but it is provided instead in the form of facsimile edition. The Kashmiri translation is written in Devanagari script by using some orthographic conventions and spellings which may seem unusual to modern readers, yet this volume allows now everyone to learn how, in the 1930s, the 2 learned Pandits considered it most appropriate to write a Kashmiri text in one of India's best-known scripts. Since the question obviously implies that a book of this sort will hardly find readers and is thus not worth the effort, it cannot be left unattended. In fact, already at the time when I was editing the Sanskrit translation, I anticipated a more or less skeptical attitude, and for this reason in my introduction to the Sanskrit Don Quixote, I tried to respond to it, even though by means of one single citation. I quoted there the words of the prominent 20th century Latinist and Tibetologist, David Roy Shackleton Bailey. Let me remind you of a few pertinent excerpts and statements from their correspondences concerning the Kashmiri translation of Don Quixote. Thus, in one of Nityanand Shastri's letters from November 28, 1935, Stein added for Keller the following note. Perhaps it was Don Quixote I hope that this has not been interfered by your illness, and that if it is not yet complete, it will soon be ready for the press. It is sure to be good. These quotations from Stein's, Keller's and Grierson's letters provide sufficient proof that the idea of publishing Nityanand Shastri's and Jagaddhar Zadoo's Kashmiri translation of Don Quixote in the form of a book very much engaged the interest of these learned men. Hence, following Shackleton Bailey's logic, we could say that our effort of bringing out the Kashmiri incarnation of Cervantes' classic should be reckoned worthwhile.
Farakhil, Kulin, Sab, Dildar, Sahasi, Sahanshil, Bechus Hakan Tanpet Kud Khaniki to Jodugari Hind Kasht Bardasht Karit. Agarchi Yat Katman Kamikal Gao, Yeliba Mot Banit Lodhos Yat Panjaras Mans to Koruk Band. Magar Toitich me Pura Asha ki Agar Dai Yetse to Hajar Korunke,
which the great Polish composer finished in 1840, 9 years before he died, also at the age of 39, but unlike the imprisoned Russian musician, his death was caused by illness. As they say in Latin, vita brevis ars longa, or life is short, art is long.
And now I will ask, His Royal Highness Dr. Karan Singh to make the final comments.
Dr. Mahesh Ashwin Devkar, Dr. Surendranath Pandita, and Dr. Dragomir Dimitrov, and distinguished members of the audience. It is always a pleasure to revisit the Cervantes Institute, because as was mentioned, I had the privilege of inaugurating this along with then Prince, now King Philip of Spain. Since then I have visited on several occasions, and I've always been very impressed by what is being done here by the Institute. The whole story of the way this Kashmiri manuscript was found and printed has already been detailed by the scholars who are here. I don't think I can add anything to it except to say that I'm glad that all of this happened during the rule of my ancestors. Maharaja Ranveer Singh, Maharaja Hari Singh in 1935. Under Dogra rule, once again, Kashmiri Pandits flourished and the Sanskrit language was rediscovered and was presented to the world. The Gigit manuscripts, for example, the Kashmir series of texts and studies are a major contribution to Buddhist studies. It's been rightly said that Kashmir has always been a center of learning. Namaste Sharda Devi Kashmir Purvasini. Sharda, the goddess of wisdom, is always supposed to be living in Kashmir, because it's extraordinary how that small valley only 20 miles by 80 miles, has produced such a galaxy of scholars. I mean, Acharya Abhinav Gupta, for example, must be one of the great scholars of the world. And how this valley produced these great scholars, the whole history of Kashmir Shaivism and the way that was developed and the texts and all, it's all very, very fascinating. And it is good that this has been published now in this very nice facsimile edition, this great novel, Don Quixote or Quixote, how is it actually? It's a great novel, probably the first real novel in the Western world, and a masterpiece. Don Quixote de la Mancha was made into film also some years ago, and these masterpieces, the more they are translated, the better it is for them, because they get to a broader audience. And now the Kashmiris can also read it in Kashmiri, which I think is a great achievement. And Professor Pandita, I'd like particularly to congratulate you, because it was your grandfather who did the work. And you see, India is a land of multiple languages. No other country in the world can boast the number of languages that we have. If you take the whole of Europe, then only would you begin to look something like India. All the European languages together are less than the languages that we have in India. It's an extraordinary linguistic civilization. The Indic civilization has produced a whole galaxy of languages and great literature in all the languages, starting from Kashmir in the north, going all the way down to Tamil Nadu in the south. Every language has produced its own literature, its own masterpieces. And so it is good that the Kashmiri language has once again been enriched by this edition. I have really to congratulate all the scholars, and particularly Professor Dimitrov for the way that you've edited this. And this has been a truly international undertaking. You have people from Spain, you have people from Germany, you have Indians, and all working together. Because the world of the mind is not cut up into narrow divisions. It's universal. And that is how scholarship is so important. And that is why scholarship needs to be encouraged. Because it is only through scholarship that the world civilization can really develop.
Yes,
I was born in France, in the Hotel Martinez à Cannes, room 318, 390, 320. I was a famous baby, so people know where I was born. And so I'm European by birth. That means I have some ambience there must be, because where the place you were born has a great impact upon you. I was not born in Kashmir. I was born on the Mediterranean. So I am really, in a way, a world citizen.
Coming to a close of this program, we will celebrate it in the Spanish and Kashmirian way, because we have some Spanish wine and we have some Kashmirian food in our menu after the event. So enjoy both Spanish wine and Kashmirian food.
Queremos vino tinto.
¿No quieres blanco?
No, blanco.
अच्छा हमको तो tinto चाहिए.
Red wine.
अभी जब से आप गए जय जय महाराज
वादी की आवाज़ लाइव इमेज कश्मीर में। ऐसे ही कई मित्रों से मैं आपको आगे मिलाऊंगा जो वादी के लेजेंडरी पर्सन हैं। मेरे इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और शेयर कीजिए।